Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy. Up on our hazardous weather graphic here, the winter storm warning out, northern Seward Peninsula and the northwest coast here. Pretty strong winds gusting as high as 55 miles an hour at Kimberley, and that picking up moisture and snow and blowing snow occurring in these conditions. So winter storm warning out for at least through tonight and into tomorrow there for the north side. Winter weather advisory out for tonight here for the Bering Strait coast on down to St. Lawrence Island. Winds gusting 25, 35, maybe a few higher gusts, reduced visibilities and blowing snow there as well. And a wind advisory here for the eastern Alaska range west of the Toe Cutoff for winds gusting over 40 to 50 miles an hour there for tonight. And the winter storm warning for heavy snow ends at 5 p.m. Friday here for the Kenai Peninsula, eastern Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound. Snowfall amounts as much as 2 feet falling up toward Turnagain Pass, and fair amounts around the Seward area of a foot or more. And this will be ending, so snowfall will begin to diminish. In fact, it's gone pretty light at Seward, but the winds have kicked up, and still seeing lower visibilities, but that mostly due to blowing and drifting snow, where the snowfalls become much lighter. Moving on to satellite imagery, see low pressure here early, right off the Kenai Peninsula, that pulling back to the northwest across south central Alaska and Cook Inlet currently Friday afternoon. And behind that, or coming southward, well, actually north to south, cold air driving southward here on the backside of this low pressure area from the Arctic down across St. Lawrence Island, gusty winds, temperatures around 5, 6, 7 degrees there, both Savunga and Gamble. And that continues southward here, kind of a widespread area of snow over the northern Bering Sea. Starts to become more showery here near the Pribilof Islands and southward in toward the eastern Aleutians, but quarter-mile visibility, Cold Bay this afternoon, gusty northwest winds and snow there, and snow back in toward Unalaska, and then mixed rain and snow out here toward the AKwx area on the western edge of the cold air. Warmer air sliding northeastward here associated with this cloud mass farther to the west, that all in conjunction with the next storm, they'll be rolling into the Bering Sea. Meanwhile, over the Panhandle, we had the front moving through, so the precipitation snow ending here. Looks like some clearing maybe showing up there on the coast, possibly Sitka. Looks like a little more likely for Port Alexander there, but still dragging across the southern Panhandle. Otherwise, snow showers here coming up onto the North Gulf Coast here with the cold air aloft swinging in. And then this portion of the front lifting northward, really precipitation becomes pretty scattered and moderate. You can see as that front lifts northward, a lot of holes in the clouds showing up, especially south of the front there, western Copper River Basin. Was snow here heavy at times, of course, in the mountainous areas of the Panhandle, and then the milder southwest flow here, changed that over to rain showers and those scattering out there in the central coast this afternoon. Had heavy snow really on around the Seward area. Iliamna, same thing. They picked up 17 inches of snow at least with this system. And areas of snow back across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Throw in the wind here. Again, winds gusting well, anywhere from 40 to possibly as high as 60 miles an hour here for the Alaska Peninsula. On out to the eastern Aleutians with snow and the cold air coming southward there past the Aleutians. But mixed rain and snow showers for the Adak and Atka area. And then you can see the tight gradient up here along the northwest coast there. That's responsible for those 50-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts there at Kivalina. Even inland areas here, Indian Mountain, although they've got some elevation, they had winds gusts to 45 miles per hour. And then less gradient here with the trough axis, so lighter winds. And picks up a little bit, but not all that strong for the North Gulf Coast. The big wind out here to the west, extending northward there into the Chukchi Sea, along portions of the Arctic coast as well. And for tonight, that next system driving eastward here into the Bering Sea. Good warm air flowing up ahead of this or associated with that frontal boundary, pushing into the western Bering. So we got rain over that area, and then rain coming into the Adak area, possibly Atka late tonight or early tomorrow morning. Otherwise, it stays pretty windy, blowing snow, reduced visibilities here for the Alaska Peninsula again. On up toward the Aleutian Range here, northeast Bristol Bay, kind of on the western edge of that snow band here, coming up across south central Alaska. A little more showery up through this area, and then areas of snow or snow showers there as that low lifts northward into the central interior areas. Not so much here over the eastern interior, 40-mile country, but back down here along the coast, another front forms and pushes more moisture, so look for snow to be on the increase again tonight as this lifts northward here. Mixture over the central panhandle, probably just becoming rain down to the south as southerly flow, both at the surface and aloft, begins to advect some warmer air northward. Looks like fairly dry there for the Arctic coast, maybe some clearing, but still a little gusty on the winds there in the passes of the Brooks Range, especially out here over the northwest, and then kind of breezy there for the remainder of the coastline. And for Saturday, tomorrow, we're looking at rain here for the Panhandle, higher elevation snow, but general warming trend with that warm front and the warmer moisture coming up from the south there. Looking for snow, though, over the northern southeast coast and a mixture of rain or snow for the North Gulf Coast here. This another low developing there just south of Kodiak Island. That'll probably keep it pretty unsettled there and swing some moisture in, form of snow or mixed rain and snow. Possibly going to just rain in the afternoon, but snowfall levels will be quite low. Snow showers out here to the west and along this trough, a couple of weak lows there over the just east of Norton Sound, and another one up there along the northwest coast. So snow showers all along that zone, but winds not too bad. A little gusty on the Arctic coast, maybe gusts 25, 30, 35 miles an hour at the most there. And winds diminishing here as this weakening ridge shifts eastward ahead of this storm driving eastward now. Rain and snow, or snow changing to rain mix there for the Nikolsky area, rain for the central Aleutians, and also along the front back to the west towards Shimia. Looks like some snow possibly spreading into the Pribilofs late in the afternoon to about St. Matthew Island. And then we'll see what takes place on Sunday. That whole system pushes right into the southwest coast there. South to southeast winds, milder, temperatures going up, so we're looking at rain here for the Alaska Peninsula, mixture there over the Kuskokwim, maybe the Yukon Delta, southern Yukon Delta, down into northwest Bristol Bay. Could see some snow and blowing snow conditions here, blowing and drifting there for the southwest coast, and possibly, probably more likely for St. Lawrence Island with a little bit tighter gradient there and definitely still in the cold air. So back into the snow and blowing snow for that area on Sunday, but staying south of the Bering Strait, scattered light snow showers up here over the northwest. Look for some clearing through the Kuskokwim Valley, down across southern Cook Inlet, Kodiak Island. Could be a mostly sunny period during the day on Sunday, and still a chance of snow here over the Chugach Mountains eastward and across Prince William Sound. And for the lows for tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 0 to 10 below eastern interior, generally below 0, 5 to 15 up over the northern interior, single numbers over the southwest, and lower 30s, lower to mid 30s for the Panhandle, and same thing for the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow afternoon, mid to upper 20s here through the interior with mid 30s south of the Alaska Range to upper 30s down toward Kodiak and the North Gulf Coast, in the 40s for the Panhandle, and 20s to lower 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. A little below 0 on the Arctic coast north slope. And again, not much change for Sunday morning here with single numbers maybe to a little below 0 over the eastern interior. Actually all the way back out to the west too. Could see it fall a little below 0 for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Otherwise for the highs, mostly in the 20s, near 0 on the Arctic coast. And for the Panhandle, warmer conditions rising to near 50.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, we've got an area IFR here mostly across the north slope and then extending out to there toward Kaktovik Barter Island. Otherwise some VFR here from the northwest valleys down across the Norton Sound area into the Yukon Delta. IFR here along the Kuskokwim Mountains back into the Kilbrooks, and then marginal VFR central eastern Bering Sea with some IFR here on the Bering Sea side of the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, right on up the Aleutian Range and the Alaska Range. Widespread IFR in over the southwest Bering Western Aleutians. IFR here North Gulf Coast from western Prince William Sound all the way down across the southeast coast. Tomorrow afternoon, IFR pretty much the rule there for the Panhandle. A little bitter, marginal down toward Dixon Entrance, but IFR all the way to the north. Could see some improvement up here over the northern areas there toward the passes in the afternoon, maybe going marginal, but a band, narrow band of IFR persists along the North Gulf Coast and the Coast Range there in toward western Prince William Sound, but breaking out the VFR here, Cook Inlet and Madanuska-Susitna Valley, and even some improvement here for the Alaska Range on down the Alaska Peninsula. Just a patch of marginal VFR now for the central Arctic coast and North Slope, and really widespread IFR spreading northeastward here and eastward to the Pribilofs and about Unalaska by afternoon. And then for Sunday morning, kind of breaks right through here with this portion pulling a little bit in toward the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island. Marginal VFR for the Pribilofs, IFR all of the Aleutians, IFR northeast Bristol Bay here, and again back up along the Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley into the west central interior, right up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. VFR for the North Slope, IFR again, North Gulf Coast, western Prince William Sound, in across northern Panhandle, and then possibly becoming VFR for places like Heidelberg, Annette, Metlakatla, and those areas. For the afternoon forecast, marginal VFR here for the southeast coast, IFR along the eastern border and to the north, and again back along the North Gulf Coast. And marginal VFR, patchy IFR for the Alaska Peninsula, and also for the southern slopes of the west central Brooks Range right through here. Narrow band of IFR there just west of Nunivak Island, but socked in there for St. Lawrence Island. IFR for sure here for the Alaska Peninsula all the way up to about Amchitka Island, then becoming marginal. Passes shaping up like this, Anaktuvik marginal VFR, and for Adigan, same forecast, marginal at times. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR to start, and then look for that to improve into the afternoon. Could even become VFR later on. And then for rainy, IFR becoming VFR, an improvement throughout the day. Same thing for windy. Look for a gradual improvement of conditions during the afternoon. Isabel, marginal, occasionally marginal for Mentasta. Tanita becoming VFR. And Portage, no, it'll be IFR and improvement. You won't see the low IFR you've seen. And could even maybe trend toward marginal VFR at times throughout the day. It's a little bit of an improvement, but not a whole lot. So keep it IFR, but not as low as today. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR becoming marginal. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet there across Prince of Wales Island, Dixon Entrance. And then much warmer air out here over the western Bering and Aleutians with 8,000 feet here spreading in across and past Amchitka Island at the surface there right across Unalaska. And icing. Light to isolated moderate rime here coming in above about 5,000 feet from Adak and Atka into the eastern Aleutians up to the Pribilofs, extending back across Shimei and Attu. Another zone here could be some more widespread considerable moderate with a lot of moisture, southerly flow working northward here, bringing pretty good icing threat in across the southeast coast. Jet stream, that's what's pulling the moisture northward for tomorrow. This upper low and cold air plunging southward. This band will become more southerly and line up right over the southeast coast here tomorrow and into Sunday. For the 9,000 foot winds, southeast again 35 to 50 knots advancing northward here into the Panhandle. Otherwise west-southwest over the Bering Sea, turn northwest 30 to 55 knots across the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians. And at 3,000 feet, westerlies about 45 to 50 knots there for the south of this low center. Southern Bering into the Aleutians diminishes here through this ridging area. Northwest 25 to 30 for the Alaska Peninsula. Southeast maybe up to 25 here for the North Gulf Coast. Definitely a big increase for the Panhandle, and turbulence to go along with that, below about 6,000 feet there of the moderate variety over the southern Panhandle, especially to the west. Also over the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, occasional moderate chop below 4,000 feet and a little bit up along the Arctic coast.
We have cleaned over 1,500 miles of shoreline now.
Basically, it comes down to just human muscle. I mean, we use chainsaws and knives.
We find stuff from like Russia and China and Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia. It really doesn't matter where it comes from. We all just have to clean it out.
Our goal right now in the next 10 or 11 days before the end of this year is just to see how much we can collect before we get to remove it.
What you see on the beach is a fraction of what's out there. You can pretty much break it down into 3 or 4 things. Water bottles, a lot of water bottles, styrofoam, fishing nets, fishing buoys. And that's 99% of what you find on the beach. Basically just go along with chainsaws and muscle and get the garbage, put it in sacks, and then from there we haul it up above the log jam so it's out of any heavy surf or winter storms if it's going to stay there for the year, and put it in super sacks. So yeah, we just progressively work down the coast, just day in and day out.
We have like daily goals for ourselves that, like, if we're working at a pretty good rate, we like to keep on pace with about, like, I don't know, about 20 to 25 super sacks a day. So this is pile 102, and in this pile right now we have 2 super sacks and 1 set of buoys. June 23rd here, this is what we've done today. We're up to 25 super sacks on the day, and I think for now we'll call it and just keep cleaning until tomorrow.
My name is Hannah, and I represent a organization in Japan called Japan Environmental Action Network. With over 20 people working together to clean up the beach. This is amazing. Like, we all need to work together to, clean up the beach as much as possible. So like every single time I go back to Japan, I talk to the fishermen, and the fishermen's like, it's a joke, but they're like, if you find any buoy with my logo, you gotta bring it back, and it's like, always looking out for that stuff.
The crew's awesome. I mean, we're all skiers or snowboarders, and we're all friends. I mean, we're all good friends. My dad started it. He's the man behind the desk. He makes the ball roll for sure. He works hard. He doesn't give up easy, which is good.
This stuff is uplifted quite a ways during the earthquake. Well, I think my bag's about full already. Yeah. I'm gonna take a quick look back in here, see what else is back here. The thing about marine debris is it's kind of a hidden problem. Unless you're out there, especially on these remote beaches that are so heavily impacted, people don't see it. I remember probably a good 20 years ago, I was out on the outside of Montague Island, flew out there, and I was just utterly astounded by all the garbage out there. You walk out there and you wade through this stuff and you go, this isn't right, this shouldn't happen.
I think a lot of it's just awareness. I mean, I've been boating out here for a long time, and I wasn't even aware of how extensive the marine debris problem is out here, but it's a consumer world out there for sure. I mean, I don't know where people's values are, I guess, but mine is you got to kind of have a little bit of respect for the environment, and considering we live in it, especially in Alaska. I mean, a lot of people like the outdoors and like to be part of the outdoors. That's why they live here, and it's they don't necessarily want to see it trashed.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis with the cold northerly winds, temperatures falling down to just above zero here over the northern Bering Sea in the Bering Strait area. Ice making an advance back to the south and to the southwest here, and even along the southwest coast, but to a much lesser extent there. And of course on Sunday, the next storm will be coming back into the Bering Sea from the southwest there, so those southerly winds will return. And so it's going to be really kind of an oscillating back and forth type of thing with each passing storm. Moving on to marine forecast for tomorrow, south winds 30 knots, 14-foot seas there for the south coast of the Panhandle, falling back to 15 knots out of the southeast to the north. Same thing for Northern Lynn Canal, but small craft advisories here for Stevens Passage all the way down to Clarence Strait, where there'll be 30 knots with 10-foot seas. And for Sunday, full gales coming into the extreme north coast here at 40 knots, minimum gales is to the south, 30 knot southerlies there for the central coast, and small craft advisory level 25 knot winds there for the south coast, but 17 to 18-foot seas. And an increase in the winds here out of the east for Lynn Canal there. It's not a direction I see in the forecast for that zone too often, but at 25 knots, gust 40, east 25, gust 40 for Stevens Passage, and southeast 25 for Clarence Strait. For Prince William Sound, east winds 20 knots tomorrow with 3-foot seas, southeast to 20 here for the North Gulf Coast with seas 8 to 10 feet, and just 15 knot winds for the Barren Islands there, but a little brisker there for the Kachemak Bay area, out of the northeast to 25, 20 knots for the southern Cook Inlet, and just 15 north of Cook Inlet. And then for Sunday, north winds at 10 knots there for northern Cook Inlet. Pretty light, but north 20 here down to the south, turning northwest 20 Kachemak Bay across the Barrens, and then back to north there for the western North Gulf Coast. And then they increase there for the east side of that next system coming up, northeast 30 knots and north 20 for Prince William Sound. And for the Kodiak Island tomorrow, there on the eastern side, those eastern zones, east 15, Selikoff Strait northeast at 20, and small craft advisories here for the Alaska Peninsula, mostly northwest 30 knots with seas up to 17 feet on the Bering Sea side of things. And then they'll swing around to the south on Sunday as that next storm drives eastward here, up to about 30 knots or so, probably some gale force gusts here coming out of the bays. What seas 9 feet, 7 feet Pacific side, west 20 here from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. Northwest, north to northwest 15 for Kodiak Island, so laying down on Sunday there, and southeast 20 for Bristol Bay. Out in the Aleutians, gales come back in, minimum gales out there actually continue through tonight and tomorrow there For the far western Aleutians, southwest 30 knots here for the central areas, turning a little more westerly around Adak and Atka, and then northwest 30, mostly across Unalaska Island. And for Sunday, we've got west to west-southwest, 30 knots, maybe as high as 35 knots here for the Fox Islands, with seas running 13 to 16 feet, west 35 for the central Aleutians, and maybe up to 40 here in a zone from just west of Adak on to maybe Kiska Island, and then back down to 30. And for the Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, north 25, southwest coast, small craft advisories, northwest 25 to 30 knots, seas up to 11 feet, 20 knot winds for the Perbalofts, but seas hanging in there at 13 feet. And those will be 14 feet on Sunday as those westerly winds increase to 30 knots, southeast 30 knots here along the southwest coast with gales south of Nunavak Island there, minimum gales, east 30 for St. Lawrence Island. And for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east winds 20 knots, and those pick up to 25 knots. So we've got brisk wind advisories here for the western coast all the way down to the Bering Strait. And then for Sunday, much lighter conditions and more variable in the direction, just down to 10 knots here, Wales up to Cape Thompson, and actually to Cape Beaufort south at 15, and back into the brisk wind advisories here for the remainder of the Arctic coast all the way over to Demarcation Point. And looking at tonight's forecast, there's that next system pulling much warmer air into the southwest Bering and Aleutian, so we're looking at mostly rain pushing into Adak later tonight, possibly reaching Atka. Stays windy over the Alaska Peninsula. Cold air continues to ride southward on those winds. Should be some blowing and drifting snow. Starting to taper off for the eastern Aleutians, and another front develops here and actually will begin to increase the winds mostly tomorrow and Sunday here for the Panhandle. Otherwise, you'll start to see the changes kicking in tonight, and for tomorrow that continues, and snow showers over the interior, and Sunday it looks a little wetter along the coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.